You're very welcome back. Now, almost 5 years after the beginning of COVID-19 lockdowns across the globe, North Korea have finally begun reopening their borders for tourists.
Welcome to the man who has visited the country 182 times, tour guide Simon Cockerell. Simon, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Why do you go to North Korea so much as a tour guide?
It's my job, basically. The company that I'm the general manager of actually is based in Beijing, and for 30 years we've been the market leader in taking Western tourists into North Korea for trips, cultural engagement, marathon running, all sorts of things like that. And so as a result of that, I've been called upon to go there a lot, accompanying people, having meetings and so on, except for the last 5 years.
So if you want to go to North Korea, can you just get in like with your passport, or is there more security checks, ID, or do you have to go with a guide like you?
You have to have. I'm not a guide. I'm the general manager of the company. But when we accompany the tours, all tours have to be accompanied by North Korean guides provided by state-owned travel companies over there. You have to have your visa and travel arrangements in advance. So there's no just rocking up and presenting a book and saying, "Let me in." It has to be planned in advance, a couple of weeks in advance usually. And then, of course, you have to get there depending on where you're coming from. It is generally the other side of the world for a lot of our tourists. So they've got to get to Beijing and then onwards from China into North Korea.
I suppose I don't really think of North Korea much as a holiday destination. And indeed, obviously, the borders have been closed. So why have they decided to open them up, Simon?
I mean, speculating on why they would decide to do something is always a bit of a mug's game, really, because nobody knows. They don't issue rationale or reasons for things. It's easy to say it's for money, but if it was for money, they would have opened to Chinese tourists years ago, because that's 99% of the market. It's only one area that's open now, and the first tour group went in literally 8 hours ago. And we're waiting for the rest of the country to open up. But they've had a tourism industry there for several decades, so it's just a slow process of normalization in a very not normal country, quite frankly.
And Simon, if you're going there, if you decide to go there, what's there to see?
I mean, there's, first of all, the standard, let's say, tourism stuff, museums, monuments, and that kind of thing. But we specialize in getting you kind of as close to a little bit of reality as possible. Everyone knows that North Korea is very tightly controlled, very strict, very autocratic country. And there's, it's just weirdness dialed up to 11, really. But it is possible to find moments of interaction, find those little times when you can spend a little time finding out what people are really like there. And that's what we really look for. So there's the big things, the macro things that the state wants you to see, let's say, and then there's the things which the clients want to see. So it's finding a mixture between them. But by no standards is it a normal place to do normal tourism. But it's not attractive for those, normal folks, let's say. It's nowhere is more fascinating if you're into quirkiness, unusualness, a dark and complex country, and you're willing to put up with all the difficulties of going there to find out just a little bit of truth and reality.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because obviously we hear so many different things from the people who have escaped North Korea about what life is like, hearing about constant famine conditions, hearing about the supreme rule of the supreme leader and that he was born on a mountain and comes from God. So when you talk about, it's weird, what are you seeing in the streets? Are people allowed to go about their daily business, or are we seeing people all dressed the same, marching? Is there food on the shelves? What's going on?
That's the thing. I mean, most people's expectation is that the country is essentially one person and then millions of automata who get up in the morning and do their, march, dress the same, eat the same meal, like there's some kind of Sims or something like that. But that's not the reality. That strips the agency from people who are given no agency in their own system already. The average person doesn't get up in the morning and say, "Death to America, long live these people," that kind of thing. They get up in the morning and think, another day of the grind. Hope my kids have a good day at school and don't get bullied. Hope my parents are well and, my husband doesn't fall down the stairs again this morning. They have, a lot of everyday normal life concerns. And it's finding the small interactions to try and relate on that level, which I think is quite important, because our image of them is absurd. And it's very, very negative. But their image of us is far worse than that. So I think it's important to try and break through the state's narrative and show that we're humans too, and
Yeah.
show that they are humans to our humans.
But that's what they've been told about us. But like, if you are there on a tour, can you mingle with them? Can you talk to them?
To a very limited extent.
Limited
I mean, most
extent.
people's expectation is zero, and it's more than zero. So that's a pleasant surprise. But of course, you're up against a system which is not designed to facilitate that mingling. You just have to make the effort within it. And, we've been doing this a very long time. So it is finding those moments, which is something we specialize in. So there's the kind of monumental tourism side, and then the interactive tourism side, which is the harder part.
Simon Cockerell, who organises these tours going into North Korea, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And it is fascinating reading what the North Korean soldiers say in Ukraine, like their experience of it, if you want to look that up online.